On today's episode, I will be taking you through a step-by-step painting tutorial from Master Yoda for the game Star Wars Legion by Grand Master Games. My name's Harry, and welcome to the Distant Vale. Starting from a black primer today, we're just going to have a little look under the light here, just see where those shadows and those highlights are falling. First color here, I think, is going to be a nice warm brown. Just looking to cover that tunic there. And as always, when you're painting, you want to go through multiple thin layers of paint. Look for a nice even coverage. Right, with the tunic done, we're going to move on to his robes. Thinking about the colors here, I'm aiming for a nice light khaki color. Obviously using a bit of Citadel paint here. Now this does cover fairly poorly, so you're going to be going back potentially 2 or 3 times to get a solid color here, but it is worth the extra bit of time and effort at this stage in the painting. It will show through a lot better in that final product. Onto his skin. Now we're going for a nice dark greeny yellow here. Now this is definitely not going to be his final tone, but it is going to be coloring a lot of those shadows really nicely. Again, this is a fairly thin paint. Using an air model paint is always going to be a little bit more challenging over a black, but take your time working through with the paints you have at hand. If you've got anything that's a little bit thicker, absolutely use that. But we're really just looking for nice even coverage for a nice solid color to start with. And I just noticed here that there was a couple of spots left on that under tunic that I hadn't quite covered yet, so just going back to that brown color to clean up my edges there. And look, when it's thin paints, take your time. A few extra layers is never going to do you any harm. Now we come on to the magic juice here. This is the Army Painter Strong Tone. It is going to be working really well here when we add a little bit of flow and probe to really break that surface tension and get into those smaller recesses. Added benefit, you get a lot higher detail on those smaller models, especially something as small as a Yoda. Downside is it is going to leave this tone, which is already fairly glossy, extra glossy, and you're going to see this at the end of this paint. It's not looking great. There's a fair bit of shine there. So I think we're going to try today a little bit of a half-remembered tip from about 5 videos ago when I was watching, is using a medium, just a plain medium, no pigment in it at all, that is meant to kill the shine. And I can't say I've ever done this before. Nothing quite like trying it first up on camera. Right, that's some pretty good coverage. Just gonna quickly blow dry this, get it nice and set. Did it make a difference? To my eyes, probably not. Maybe I didn't quite use the right medium here. I know the speed paints tend to be a little bit glossier anyway. Next time I might just try a normal glaze medium. Now, coming back through in time to do our first highlight with the base coat. So just taking those 3 colors that are already on the wet palette here. I'm just going to come back through and just start highlighting up with a fairly chunky highlight. So basically anywhere that is not too deeply covered by the wash, we'll just go back through, give it a nice little brightening up with that original color. It is going to look a little odd for the next little bit, given how glossy those shadows are going to be, but it's nothing we can't fix up afterwards with a bit of a matte varnish. Right, now that those first set of rough highlights are done, it's time to come on through and start to do our sort of more detailed highlighting. Now, with each of these base colors that I've got on the model at the moment, we're going to be doing the same highlighting step. So we're going to be taking a similar tone, sort of one step lighter, chuck it on the wet palette, and then for the first highlight, actually doing a 50-50 mix with the original base color and this highlighting color. So it gives us a little bit more of a smooth transition, going from dark to light. There's also a great way to cut down the number of paints that you have to purchase to get good painting done. I have a fairly limited paint collection at this time, and look, I'm just making the most of what I've got. With the highlighting at this step, we want to really make sure that we're being a little bit more careful with these highlights, not just slapping it on anywhere. You're looking to cover probably about half as much as you did in the last step. And look, get a nice fine point on your brush, take your time, and try to just be careful. We don't want to be going over any of the steps we've already done. That being said, given it's only a half step up, it's not too hard to go back through with the original base tone and clean it up.
Thanks, guys. I'm just going to hijack this video for a second. If you're enjoying what you're watching and the work that we're doing, Harry's doing a great job. Like, subscribe, and follow on the YouTube channel. It really helps us out, makes everything worthwhile, and makes us know that we're doing something right.
Right, coming in for the highlight tone on the robe. Again, just looking for one step up and then doing a 50-50 mix between the two shades, the highlight shade and the base shade. Now, when I say 50-50, I'm not meaning an exact, one drop of each. It's more of a 50-50 color. So it might be a little bit more of your base tone, it might be a little bit more of your highlight. It really depends on just a bit of feel and eyeballing the color that you've got. Look, it's not exact rocket science, but again, just go with what feels right and what looks good on the model. You can always come back and touch things up. With this highlighting step, we're not covering a lot of the model, and it isn't too hard to clean up mistakes. Right, on to the skin highlight now. Because we used quite a yellow tone in the green for the base color, I'm going for, again, a fairly yellow green. It sounds a little odd to say, but if you go through and compare a few different greens together, you'll see they kind of fall into either a yellow green or a blue green. And it can be really important sometimes when you're checking which colors you're using to highlight that they have sort of similar colors. Or look, if you're looking for maybe something to stand out, going for a clash can give you a certain kind of look. It's not quite what I'm going for here, but I've certainly done similar things on other models where I wanted to have the highlight really stand out quite strongly from that underlying base color. Right, next step, time to paint his little toenails. Going through with the same colors we used for the robe. At this distance, they're going to look pretty gnarly and gross, which is just how we like our little Yodas. Alright, now we're going to come on to the hard part, painting a lightsaber. Now, normally with a luminous object, you can kind of cheat a little bit and use a highlight around the edges. With a lightsaber though, it's a little bit tougher to get that glowing look from every angle. So we're going to start with a super bright white for the actual lightsaber itself, metallic grey on the handle, and the way we're going to kind of cheat this glowing look from every angle is we're going to do a little bit of a darkening towards the tip, bright towards the handle. It's going to give us a nice glowing look whilst not being strictly true to the to what it looks like in the movies. It is going to give us a nice tabletop look. So coming through here now, doing a little bit of a highlight on the handle, just a couple of dots here and there. And then I remembered I had forgotten to paint the hair on Yoda. So just coming back through with a nice cool grey, just getting a nice little base coat here, and I'll come back through and highlight with the white that I already have on the palette, mixing into that sort of 50-50. Right, time to do the lightsaber blade. We're using a bright green ink here over that white just to get that lovely bit of shine. What we're also going to be doing is, as we're going through and doing up this blade, we're going to be thinning down that ink to a nice transparent glaze and just running that over the edges of the cloak to give it a bit of a glow effect. And while we're going through, we're going to be coming backwards and forwards with the white as well, just to brighten up the handle of the blade. And then using that glaze that we've just created with the thinned down ink, just to cover that transition line. Right, so I figured I'd try and do the eyes on Yoda here. Unfortunately, I did them terribly. Decided to go back over, cover those up, and instead of going for a proper eye, I figured that, hey, let's make them a little bit more interesting, cover them white, and we're going to ink them green like the lightsaber. I'm imagining this is a bit more of Yoda channeling the Force in a sort of visual way of describing that. It'll look a lot cooler in the end when you get it nice and close on the tabletop. And with that, we're finished. Taking a little moment to appreciate the gorgeous little gremlin we have in our hands here. Cheers for hanging out with me today, guys. I really had a bit of fun here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.